Welcome to the Nord Show, a podcast where we sit with creators and get their thoughts on all things movies, games, and content creation. I'm your host, Joe Aragon. You may know me on TikTok as Cinema Joe, and I am joined today by Noah Grossman. We'll be chatting today about creating content, some gaming, some movies, and answering some community questions at the end. Noah, how are you doing today?
What's up, Joe? I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited to talk about, a lot of different things today. But before we dive into that, make sure to follow The Nord Show on Spotify, on Apple, drop a review, and of course, subscribe to the NordVPN YouTube channel to never miss an episode. There is a link in the description of this episode to get a great deal on NordVPN. All right, so let's get to this. Noah, you're a writer, a comedian, an actor, a content creator. You have the whole shebang. Let's start with the simple questions. When did this start? And more importantly, why did it all start?
Dude, Joe, are you even an influencer if you don't have at least 4 subtitles to what you're doing? At least 4.
This is very true.
Right?
It's very true.
So how it all started was through acting. So I was doing professional acting since I was 13. Here and there doing like commercials, guest stars, small things here or there. Nothing that was like groundbreaking or, gonna make or break a career. But definitely, I got enough work to make it worth the time that was being spent. And so I was working since 13, so 17 is when I got the audition for Smosh, but I was mainly doing improv, commercial stuff like that. Nothing too traditional acting background. So when an audition came by for Smosh, they wanted actors that had an improv background. And that was as much as they asked for. So yeah, went in as an actor. Once they added us to the team, that's kind of when the other titles were added in. They had us in writers' rooms, had us writing some scripts when we could. Past that, kind of creating a little bit of my own content. Most recently, I actually made a game show, which is super freaking incredible. We're in the process of hopefully selling it somewhere in town, if anyone would like it, I hope. Netflix, Amazon, G4, anyone listening, hit me up.
Yeah, hit them up.
But yeah, man, that's been the most recent move. So I'm still at Smosh acting. And then right now trying to get this game show made. It's called Even the Odds. We got 2 proof of concept episodes out on my YouTube channel. It's an amateur video game loving hero, we call them, versus a professional esports, either gamer or content creator. Yeah, so it's a 1v1 of skill. It's ridiculous. We shoot it, man, it's insanely high quality. We shoot it on a 36-foot wide, tall, massive curved 4K LED screen using the same technology they use in like The Mandalorian. Man, it's just fucking dope. I could talk about it forever because I'm just like hugely passionate about that project, but I don't know if my intro needs to be 10 minutes.
If you have amateurs facing against professionals, what leg up do the amateurs have? There has to be a catch, right?
That's the whole hook of the show. Dude, Joe, you're on it. You're on it, man.
Am I on it right now?
You're on the hook. The whole entire hook is the fact that we introduce a debuff mechanic. Just like in video games, there's buffs and debuffs. So we debuff the professional or buff the amateur in the round. So there's 3 rounds. The first round is a 1v1 battle of skill. So you just get to see straight up, can you beat the pro? And then the next 2 rounds, we introduce these debuffs in order to make it even. So whether we put you in goggles that make you look like you have vertigo, so it's hard to see, or we build a room around you and pretend like, we're your parents and we make you have to clean it. So you got to drop the controller and mop the floors, do a bunch of just ridiculous stuff. So it's an all around good time. And
okay,
man, I'm hoping
what
it gets on TV.
What kind of games are they playing?
So it's super cool. We either stick, there's a couple different ways that we do it. In the 2 proof of concept episodes, one is we stick to genre. So in the first episode, it's all about fighting games. So we have a fighting game pro versus just a fighting game amateur, someone who likes the games. And what do they play? They play Street Fighter, they play Mortal Kombat, and they play Guilty Gear Strive. Each round, they switch to a new game to kind of show off their skills in the fighting game genre. And then in the second episode, we take the professional and we throw them kind of fish out of water. So both the professional and the amateur are not very skilled at these games. There might be one game they're good at within it, but we go through a variety. So we did League of Legends, Halo Infinite, and then we did Street Fighter again. So it's a game about showing your video game skill and prowess kind of in a battle for bragging rights, I guess. You get to take down a professional.
Wow. What a start. When you were starting your content creation, though, so before you were an actor, I've had a lot of guests tell me that they were just making kind of dumb YouTube videos and just posting them online. Did you have a similar start to this career where you just kind of just throwing things on YouTube to see what sticks, or did you just jump straight into kind of auditions around town?
Yeah, so first dropped into auditions around town. I guess technically was making or uploading videos with my friends. Before that, in elementary school, we uploaded a couple videos of us doing like dumb. They were kind of spoofs, inspired by
Yeah.
anything that we were watching. Like one that we uploaded was like us making fun of Naruto. You know what I mean? Like doing like a
Oh, got it,
series
got
of
it.
vignettes is what technically you'd call them. Um, but yeah, I started with kind of traditional acting, and then along the way would upload stuff to YouTube every now and then. Like my friend Noah, who's also my neighbor, we made a couple of simple sketches online, which is so funny. I haven't watched those in years. Um, but yeah, small stuff here and there. Like we made again a lot of it comedy, a lot of it spoofs, like fake
Yeah.
cologne commercials, or one that we did was a fake music video where the rapper never raps. It's just always the music, and then we filmed it all on a GoPro on my forehead for some reason. It's just ridiculous.
Amazing, amazing.
But yeah, I guess you could say it
What
was making stupid videos, but not necessarily like trying to make it on YouTube.
got it. Okay, it's very interesting. Well, you've done a really good job creating this community and really owning and harnessing this really positive community. What's something about your community that you really love?
That's really sweet of you to say. So my community, thankfully, because I'm attached to Smosh, and I've been able to be there so long, which has been like a godsend. Um, a lot of the community kind of that follows me obviously comes from them. Um, but a cool thing is we've been able to see kind of the evolution of both the Smosh fan base, and then from that my fan base or community, whether it's
Mhm.
just on my social media or on my Twitch streams. Um, because I'm associated with so many other kind of cool, good people. It's like
Mhm.
it's like many layers of filtration, if that makes sense. So like only the
Yeah, no, I
people,
think it does.
yeah, the best people from Smosh are really gonna try and find me. The people who actually care or want to see what's up with me or want to talk to me, they're already gonna like look for me and find me. And then whether I'm on Twitch, another Smosh cast member, Damian Haas, he's huge on Twitch. And so a lot of people who follow me on Twitch also follow him. So it's like in the best way, I'm kind of like stealing someone else's work. I'm like copying their answers because I
Yeah.
get to pull from different pools that already exist. So I get to be like, oh, okay, these are the fish that I like, and these are the fish that I like. And when you hang out here, we're nice and we're positive. So it makes it easy. Now I can understand for larger creators, they can't necessarily choose or curate their audience as much. So that's something that I think I I am given the opportunity to do. Um,
Now, we've talked and you've mentioned Smosh a lot. I know what Smosh is, but if there's anybody out there who's listening and doesn't know what Smosh is or who Smosh is or what Smosh is, how would you describe Smosh to somebody who's just hearing it for the very first time?
I probably should have opened on that when I started talking about it. So
No, it's
Smosh,
I forgot too.
Smosh is a large internet comedy brand on YouTube. For a long time, they were the most subscribed to. I think we have like
Mhm.
26 million subscribers, though view count doesn't necessarily reflect the subscriber number. Um, but we're a large channel. It was initially started by two guys, Ian and Anthony, which you might recognize if you see them. Just kind of two boys up in Sacramento, started in high school, way back at the beginning of YouTube. So this might be 2006. And
Yeah.
the brand's been around since then, constantly either being in the number one spot, number two spot, number three spot. Now we're lower because I mean, there's just so many more people on YouTube, which
Yeah.
is cool. But yeah, about 6, 7 years ago, the brand expanded into adding additional cast members to just kind of the two main guys that make general sketches, loose comedy videos, maybe song parodies. They also would do what we would call personality style content, which is like, hey, we're going to go to lunch, or hey, we're going to answer questions from the fans, stuff that isn't
Oh,
scripted.
okay.
So, like unscripted content, that's a better term for it. So, yeah, 6, 7 years ago, they added myself and a couple other cast members. And kind of through the years, we've added on a few extra people. And now we've kind of expanded into this large comedy family, comedy brand. Where we still do a lot of scripted stuff, but actually, our most popular videos are our unscripted videos. You may or may not have seen we do
Mm,
things like Try Not to Laughs, different trivia games, just generally a good old fun time.
yeah. I feel like everybody who knows Smosh, including myself, has a pretty vivid memory of their very first Smosh video they watched. I know I have my first memory. I know what it is. Do you have a memory of when you watched the very first Smosh video you watched by any chance?
Yeah, I do, and I also want to know what yours is after. My first memory was the one that blew up, the OG Pokemon theme song, where they
Yeah.
just lip sync it, and then there's like a Pikachu at some point on a chair, and they like beat it with a belt or something. I don't know. It's like ridiculous. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, man.
that's mine as well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely my first memory. And I think maybe for anybody who's late to mid 20s to late 20s, even early 30s, that's probably their first memory because that was at the infancy of YouTube, as you mentioned, and it was just taking a very iconic song like the Pokemon theme song and them lip syncing it and beating Pikachu with the belt was something I'll never forget watching. But I'm glad that's yours as well.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous that there's like those small details. And then
Yeah,
I won't forget either then being confused because I didn't necessarily like follow the channel, but I would just look up the name. I don't even know if you
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
subscribe back then or if I even
I
realized that I
don't know
could
if you
make an
could.
account, right? I feel like you had to
Yeah,
just search stuff up.
yeah,
Uh,
it was different back then.
yeah, but when they got sued by the company that owns Pokemon and they had to like take down the theme song and I just
Oh,
remember there's like all this random like drama and I remember being a kid and just being like, what is happening? Like
yeah.
I just don't
I didn't understand
understand.
how the copywriting worked back then. It was like the wild west of YouTube. It was still trying to figure itself out, and people were getting in trouble for all kinds of things. Uh, this is a good transition because you were talking earlier that you were making videos kind of based on what you're watching. Uh, the movie you've chosen today, and I always tell people when I reach out to guests, I'm like, hey, guest, what do you want to talk about? We can talk about like Batman or Marvel movies or Star Wars, a big blockbuster from the last 5, 6 years. I usually leave it up to guests to choose. And for people listening, Noah responded saying, hey, I like those movies, but have you heard of this movie, Scary Movie 3? And my eyes lit up, and I was like, of course, I've heard of Scary Movie 3. Out of all of the movies and genres in the world, why did you go that direction?
Dude, I have been about parody since I can remember. Like comedy is how I learned a lot of like truth about the world cuz
Hmm.
there's like a few rules to successful comedy and I feel like those rules also kind of lead you towards in my opinion the right direction of how to enjoy content and possibly,
Hmm.
just a little bit better perspective on the world because whether it's like, Scary Movie 3 or Family Guy, Simpsons, Futurama, man, South Park, like any of these things, there's an element within comedy where you need a truth and you need like a universal truth. And also, in order for jokes to land, depending on what your intent is, because there's many different ways to formulate a joke, you need to take your audience kind of along the journey in order to get the punchline. So as a
Yeah.
kid, it was really, really enjoyable to get perspectives on the world, whether it's names of famous people that they're making fun of, or, it doesn't have to be cultural references, but just kind of how different characters interact to have their perspectives and their objectives in a scene. Comedy is formulaic, but
Hmm.
in a way that's not unoriginal. It's just
Hmm.
it's like a math. I don't understand math. I understand comedy. So like there's like an intuition that you kind of gain not just for the feeling of comedy, but for the world around you by observing comedy. Like again, I don't really get Shakespeare. I don't really understand Shakespeare, but I can only imagine when you're watching a Shakespeare play that it's the greatest thing in the world because not only is it a play, but it's also satirical. But there's all these elements that's like it's comedy. Like
Yeah.
that's a full comedy. Whether they're doing parody, whether they're doing anything at all, there's just elements that are kind of in good art. They follow some formulas. I guess
Yeah.
that's it.
No, that's a very good way, deeper way than I thought you would explain choosing Scary Movie 3. I didn't know we're gonna be connecting Shakespeare and Scary Movie, but I think there is some truth to it, though. I think there's a lot of truth to it that you pointed out. Everybody has a story about the movie when they first watched it. What's your story with Scary Movie 3? Did you watch it in theaters? Was it at home? Was it alone? Group of friends? With family? What's the story behind watching Scary Movie 3?
So the first time I watched Scary Movie 3, it was on an old ass computer that sounds like an airplane when it turns on. And my oldest brother was watching it. And again, as a kid, like I didn't know any of the films that they're referencing or making fun of, but like you get that they're jokes. There's visual gags. There's so many elements that are funny without having to know the deeper layers. which in general I think is like what a successful parody film that a child can like laugh at jokes that they don't even understand because you've made
Yeah,
funny
yeah,
jokes.
good point.
But when I was a kid, I didn't understand that it was fully a comedy because elements of it were scary to me. Like The Ring is scary. You know, someone going from little girl to like evil villain, very scary. So the first time I ever watched it, it was over my brother's shoulder on a shitty computer, and it actually froze, like buffered during the scene when she turns from little girl back to evil demon. And so
Oh,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
really actually got like scared because his face was just stuck there in like low quality. And I was like, I remember being actually afraid. And then it starts buffering through the rest of the scene, and she has like a chainsaw, and she cuts down the wood on her
Yeah.
head, and it's fucking hilarious. But just being in that moment, I like for a second got confused because I was laughing. And then all of a sudden it started buffering, and then I was stuck on something scary. And I think it intrigued me more than any content I'd watched before because I have seen Scary Movie 3 in my life at least 60 times. Every time there was a sleepover, we'd go to Hollywood Video. I'd be like, yo, we need to get Scary Movie 3. Like, I swear to God, every opportunity I
No.
had, I wanted to watch that movie.
Very fair, very fair. I guess maybe we should have started this with this. How do we even describe Scary Movie 3 to people who have never seen it? I mean, because it's a parody film, obviously, but like it's a parody of many, many, many films. How would you describe it to somebody who has never heard of it?
Man, if you have never seen Scary Movie 3, first off, I would say watch it. Even if you
Yeah,
don't
there
like
we go.
comedy or parody films, and you don't need to know any of the films in it, because I think it is one of it's the best parody film I've ever seen in my entire life because it stands as its own
Wow.
movie. In my opinion, it literally stands as its own movie. There are scenes that are so hilarious that you do not need to know that they're making fun of Signs. You don't need to know they're making fun of 8 Mile. Like you just don't need to know these things, and it's still fucking
It's true.
hilarious.
It's
And
very
then
true.
once you piece it together and you're like, oh my God, they're doing the Matrix right now, you're like, this is the funniest fucking thing on the planet. Like once you because it's just actually so fucking good. I don't know how to describe it past like the joy it brings me is so immediate and so deep. You need to watch this film.
I'm curious because Scary Movie 3, while I also really love it because I saw it, I remember seeing it in theaters at like 14 or 15. I remember being excited because I could go alone and watching it with friends and
Because it
just
was PG
laughing and
13.
laughing because it was PG-13. And I think the previous Scary Movie 2 and 1 were both rated R.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't see those two. And I've heard of them. I've heard things about them, I've seen scenes, but I never was able to watch them. 3, I was able to watch. I remember laughing my ass off in the theater with all my friends at the Signs parody, at the 8 Mile parody, at the Ring parody. I forgot they even did the Matrix parody in that movie until I watched it last night. Um, but I would say Scary Movie 1 and 2 are probably a little bit more iconic. Is there a reason you chose 3 over 2 or 1?
So a couple of reasons. Number one, 3 was the first one that I watched, so there's a level of nostalgia
Okay.
there. And then 1 and 2 to then the transition to 3 and 4 is obviously made by different people. It
Mhm.
just like the backstory on it. 1 and 2, it's a property kind of made by the Wayans or Wayans. I don't really know how to say it with the extra light A.
I
It's
always say Wayans,
yeah,
but
Wayans,
I don't
right?
really know either.
Uh, but yeah, so they made the first two, and the first two are incredible. They are really, really funny. I think the first one is stronger than the second one, but the second one is more rewatchable in a weird way. So it's actually like a battle for which one's better.
I
Um,
get that. I get that.
they definitely are like they didn't crawl so Scare Movie 3 could run, but they definitely like they set a world record, and then and then 3 is just like man, it blows them out of the water. So 3 it transitions into I think they might have been producers on it before or something. It's just a weird
Mm,
transition where I know there's like
got
bad
it.
blood between the creators, but I honestly just believe that 3 is better. Um, I really do. And obviously it's an evolution on the format from the first two, but I just think it's in a perfect pocket of both properties that it's making fun of. I think like evolution of just parody content in general, it's like right in the proper pocket. Kind of before stuff gets stale and stuff kind of is just like we're just gonna shit out comedy, which I don't really know the last couple of like great comedies that I've seen.
Just like in general?
Yeah, just in general, because I'm like I really really enjoy comedies,
Well,
but there's an issue where the formula gets
yeah, there
abused to a degree.
There are some. I mean, like I have been a big fan of the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies,
Those
which
were
I
great.
guess it's
I
like
was literally going to
the
bring those up.
last 10ish years. I was a big fan of Booksmart that came out in 2019, which is a different. These are very different
I haven't
types of
seen
comedy,
Booksmart.
right? I mean, I like Booksmart a lot. That was really
I
good.
might add that to a list.
Gosh, I would have to like really look back. I know I always say 21, 22 Jump Street. I always say Superbad, but Superbad came out. We're talking 2008, I believe it came out, 2009. I mean, that was a while ago now.
Yeah,
So
like
it's
Pineapple
not even that
Express.
recent.
Add to that list, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
I'm trying to
as
think of
well.
like in the last, you know, like 5 years. I can't think of like the strong comedy I've seen that's a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Comedy is it's a hard one. It's a hard one to reinvent because like you said, it's a lot of comedy can fall into cycles and certain trends. You know, this whole era of parody film was really popular for a stretch of 5 or 6 years. And then now we're just trying to find new footing and a new trend. So it's not it's a hard genre to master and really get right because I think also comedy is probably the most subjective genre, right? Everybody finds different things funny. What you find funny, I may not find funny, and vice versa. It's a hard genre to really please everybody. Um, that being said, do you have a favorite moment from Scary Movie 3? Because I was rewatching and I think I have one, but I'm curious if you have a
Yeah,
couple
I
or
want to
one.
know what yours is too, because I literally the whole movie is my favorite moment. I did want to shout out one movie that I'm like most recent comedy that I've seen just off of that because I don't want to just be
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, Negative Nancy. Eurovision was super fun.
Oh yeah,
What's his
Eurovision was
face?
great.
Will Ferrell. Yeah, that one was good. That one
Yeah.
was good.
Academy Award nominated Eurovision.
Was it really?
Yeah. Well, for song, but hey, it counts. It counts for something. And the Academy Award nominations is something.
Yeah,
I don't totally discredit it.
But yeah,
Scary
favorite
Movie 3
moments.
moment. What is your moment?
Favorite moments, dude. We got to start at the beginning of the film to go through all the favorite moments. Like, okay, we open up on the film. Okay, they're spoofing the ring. Okay, so, oh my God, the opening. Oh, now I don't even remember the line, but she's doing a crossword. She's like, what's a four-letter word for? Yeah,
It's a 3-letter word for a noise a cow makes. That's what it is.
yeah. They get it wrong.
And they say like dude or something like that,
Yeah,
and it's obviously not it. But that's how they open it up. Exactly
it's
that
so
line.
fucking stupid. They go right from that to like some other dumb shit. They like get scared and they get in like a little pillow fight, and then like they get more scared. So then the power's out and they go downstairs and they get a phone call. And it's like a phone call, and she's like so scared, and the other one's waiting, like, oh my God, who's calling? And you just hear over the line, like some evil sounding shit. And she just goes like, hi, Mom, how are you? Like, so simple. She puts that away. They're more scared about what's going on. Oh my God, the fridge opens a little bit. This is, okay, I'm getting to it. One of my favorite moments at the very beginning. The freezer of the fridge just opens a little bit, and she's confused why the freezer opens a little bit. So she goes to close it, and she just struggles so much trying to close this freezer. It is the dumbest fucking joke that you could ever do. I can't imagine what that joke looks like in the script. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, she struggles to close freezer. Like, how do you even, like, that actress just killed the moment. Like, it's just so fucking funny. Oh, I could go through the whole film, man. But what's your favorite moment?
That's fair. That's fair. Any moment with Rex Simon is maybe my favorite. I love all of his moments. I always laugh when he says, "I'm great with kids," and he like throws a basketball at the kid, and the kid like gets knocked out, and he like runs over to the kid, and then like knees the kid in the face, and he gets knocked out, and then he like lifts the kid up, hits the fan, and goes out the window.
He walks back in. He's got like a huge chunk of mud.
Yeah, that part. I also like when she like comes home. She's like, "Where is he?" And he's like, "I don't know. We were playing a game, and I look down, and he's like, Yahtzee!" And he jumps up and like hits his head. All of those moments I still find hilarious with Rex Simon. I'm a big fan of Signs, so seeing it spoofed is really funny to like see the aliens like pee out of their finger. Like it's so nonsensical, but and kind of dumb, but I still like was laughing. And the president's like, "Oh, it looks like we're not that different after all." And he also pees out of his finger.
Dude,
like
that
you, I
film
could probably
also
go
has
on and on.
crazy heavy hitters, man. Leslie Nielsen.
It does.
Like, dude.
It does. It was a young Kevin Hart's in that as well.
Yeah, dude, that's
ultra famous.
Yeah, Kevin Hart's like main hilarious like roles. That's like the biggest shit that he was doing at the time. Not trying to like take
I
anything
know.
from him because I know he did
Crazy.
a couple other things before that. But that I think is when everyone was like, "Yo, this guy's fucking hilarious." Because he's there with
Yeah,
even
yeah.
what's his face? What's his name? Anthony.
Anthony Edwards is
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
guy.
yeah. And it's just like you realize that everyone here is actually like top notch. Like Anna
I
Faris,
know.
Regina King. Like, dude, the list goes on and on. Like each person gives such a stellar performance, man. It's so good.
Yeah, it's pretty great. There's a lot of heavy hitters in that one, and people are still making stuff today.
And we got to
So
mention
I
Charlie
love it as
Sheen
well.
and his wife at the
Of
time.
course,
Is
Charlie
that a
Sheen.
Denise Richards? Am I making that up? I think
No,
that was
was
his
she
wife
the
at the
wife at the
time.
time?
I
But she
think
was in
so.
it. She
Yeah,
was in
yeah. I
it.
think at the time they were
Yeah,
married.
yeah. She was like the his wife in Signs, basically, who got
Hmm.
smashed by the car. So
Dude,
that's another visual gag with a policewoman whose like hat gets randomly bigger. Like it doesn't make
dude,
any
it's
sense, but
so
it's like
funny.
those tiny things.
Or even when she's like, your wife was split in half, and he's like, how? And she's like, look what happens to the hot dog. And she splits it in half, and he's like, she broke her wiener? And she's like, no, no, no. Look what happens to the taco. Like, dude, the jokes are so evergreen. Like, they would be funny no matter what's happening. Like, and that's just
Yeah,
so
I'm
incredible. It's really good
I'm laughing
comedy.
as we're talking about it. I just watched it not even like 12 hours ago, and I'm
It's
still
still
laughing at it.
hilarious.
So okay. Well, we could probably get stuck talking about every scene from Scary Movie 3. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do some quick rankings of some other things. Are you missing out on your favorite show because it's not available in your region? Trying to keep your private time private? Well, let me introduce you to NordVPN. If you're bored with US Netflix, why not take a spin on the UK? Use NordVPN, and at a click of a button, you can do just that. With 5,000 plus server options, no show is out of your reach. Make sure to use Noah's link in the description of the episode to get a great deal on NordVPN and support Noah's channel. All right, we've talked a lot about scary movies, all of them. What are your 3 favorite movies that you can rewatch all the time, infinitely amount of times?
Okay. Look, it's got to be on the list because it's my favorite, right? Scare Movie 3, we already knew it. Let's push past it, right? You need to
Okay,
watch it at home. Another movie
perfect.
that I can watch anytime, man, Kung Pao Enter the Fist. You ever seen Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
What? Noah. I think I could recite to you every single line in Kung Pao Enter the Fist, like by heart. I've seen that movie probably 100 times.
Yes, yes, it is beyond classic. It is like, dude, again, foundational. If you want to know who I am, watch Scare Movie 3 and then watch Kung Pao Enter the Fist, and you will understand me and
Amazing.
everything I find funny. Dude, Kung Pao Enter the Fist, just
How do you describe Kung Pao Enter the Fist to somebody who's never heard of it?
here's the pitch, okay? Guy who did all the stunt direction for the Ace Ventura movies, right? Goes off and makes his own film because he's hilarious, comedic actor, physical comedy, everything. He loves kung fu films, so he takes a famous Chinese, I believe Chinese. I think it's a
I think
School of the
so.
Crow, something like that, or
Oh wow, good memory. I have it somewhere in
or
my
School of the
movie
White
collection.
Crane. It's a crane, not crow. It might be School of the Crane or something like that. The School of the White Crane. I don't remember. The point is that it's some like 70s kung fu film. And so he does some groundbreaking technology shit for the time. I don't even know what year it is, like 99, 2001, who knows. He
It's
takes
early
all this
2000s, yeah.
footage, yeah, from this 70s film and he recuts it up, green screens himself in as the main character, reshoots a lot of the scenes with new actors, matches locations and stuff in order to layer together a brand new version of this film that is all dubbed. Like he does like fucking half the voices. Like it definitely pushes the line of like, is this okay? Is this not okay? You got to remember it's 2001 and it's hilarious. Just have a good time because nothing is meant with ill intent. Nor is there anything in there that I think is actually like too racy. I think like the only
I
line
don't
that
think
we're
so.
really getting at is just kind of obviously impersonating voices of another culture or using another culture's film.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think that's well within the grounds of like a reasonable comedy. There's nothing that pushes racist, in my opinion. There's nothing that's like, oh, this is a rude impression of someone else. It's not at all in that way. It's actually really fucking ridiculous. And the lead villain is named Betty.
Betsy, yes.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people would agree. I mean, it's a pretty interesting way because he does take this, like you said, a already established kung fu movie and just redubs it and like puts his own like image into it. It's a pretty interesting way of doing a movie, and I would say it's almost kind of groundbreaking in terms of technology wise. Because I think when I was younger, I didn't even like realize how he just green screened himself into this movie. It's pretty impressive the way he shot and made this movie. But I've watched it an infinite amount of times, laugh at it all the time. People always make fun of the cow part, and
Dude, I
yeah,
love
it's
it,
kind of
man.
cheesy.
I love it. I think
I
it's
still loved it.
hilarious.
I
Dude,
still
they
love it.
parody Matrix. Dude, he literally defeats a cow by sliding like 40 feet on his arms and then milking it until it's like too thin to fight back. Like, what the fuck? That's funny.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
not on for that ride, man, I don't know what boat you're trying to take because I'm taking that boat
yeah.
to Silly Town. I don't know where you're trying to go.
I, I quote it probably daily at some point. I find some way to quote that movie, so I'm with you in the love for it.
Hmm.
I'm always a little upset by that movie only because they tease a Kung Pao 2
Right?
at
And
the
it
end.
never happens.
It never happened. It's been like 25 years, 20 years, and I'm still waiting for a Kung Pao 2. So that's my only gripe with the movie at this point.
Hmm.
Do you have a third movie that you
Yeah,
watch all the
man.
time?
Third one in general would be just any Studio Ghibli film, like just straight up.
Oh,
But
wow.
I'm gonna throw out,
Changing gears.
dude, that shit will make me. Every single one will just make you cry.
Yeah.
Just in general, like I'm not a visual artist. I can't do it. I really can't make visual art. But they take the animated medium, and I don't think I've ever experienced an animated movie or animated content that can communicate as much as their art style, even though they're still in 2D. Like there's just something incredible about animation. And if, in my opinion, you want to see the power of animation versus other forms, you watch a Studio Ghibli film. Like Pixar,
Wow.
like those are all great. They've got great stories at the heart of them. But and maybe it's just because I grew up watching 2D stuff before I watched 3D stuff, but there's there's something lost in attempting to make the more real image, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like there's
Yeah, I
the
think it does.
communication of the artist is lost. So man, I would say watch Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Man, that's
Like
like
that one a
my
lot.
favorite one, mainly because it's like not on the list of, like, we all know kind of the huge ones to go, like My Neighbor Totoro. Um, uh, Now I can't even think of the
Spirited
one,
Away.
Spirited Away, the one when they're in the middle of the forest. Howl's Moving
Princess
Castle,
Mononoke is yeah,
Princess
that one's my
Mononoke.
favorite one.
Yeah. The only one that I haven't been able to gain the guts to watch is the one based on the Vietnam War. I think it's called like Firefly, something like that.
Oh,
It might not
that
be
one,
the
yeah, it's
Vietnam
based
War,
off.
maybe the Korean
Yeah,
War,
it's just World War
World
Two.
War
Yeah,
Two. Okay,
and
yeah,
yeah, Grave of the Fireflies
yeah,
is what it's called. It's a rough one.
yeah,
That is a movie that I've seen one time and I'm good to never watch again. It's fantastic, but if you're looking to have your soul shattered, that might be a good one to check out if you're in for a good cry.
yeah.
So it's a good one though.
Yeah,
Just
all of them have
tough, tough.
insanely powerful moments, but that's the one that's like, listen, I make the joke all the time. I'm a bad Jew. I've never watched Schindler's List, and it's because there's a pocket in my heart that if I'm brought to feeling that way, I can't escape it. And that's where it's like I need that in small doses. I do, because it's too
It's very
effective.
fair.
And for good
Yeah. No,
reason.
I mean
The subject matter deserves
that's a
it.
good example too. Yeah, the subject matter deserves it. Those are both hard watches, both movies that I think are fantastic. But yeah, they're not easy to really sit down and pop in one day. You have to like prepare yourself for what
Mhm.
you're about to watch.
It's
So
like, yeah, it's
good
yeah,
choices.
great film, but no one's having a movie night where we're all watching Precious. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not
Yeah,
inviting you
we're
over
not.
to watch Precious. Incredible film. Just
Yeah.
one time.
Wow. It's funny. I've made a list one time of movies that I love but I'll never watch again. And all three of the movies we just talked about, Precious, Schindler's List, and Grave of the Fireflies, are all on that list.
Yeah.
All movies I love, but I don't think I'll be watching them anytime soon again.
Hmm.
Let's do one last top three.
Yeah.
Top three movies. We talked a lot about comedies. Do you have three movies that you love that are not comedies? Do you have three dramas you love, three romance, three sci-fis?
So I guess it's like, I think, I don't know what it would be yet, but Get Out. I don't think it counts as a comedy, though I do think it
No,
would be
it's like a
satire, right, to some degree.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Like, which is technically comedy, so it'd be like a horror comedy, but I think that one's just generally great just because it's super fun. But if we're not going to pick that one, I'll pick a more recent Jordan Peele one. Candyman was really fun. I think it's fun for a lot of different reasons. The main one being, I mean, I've seen the original Candyman, not that great of a film. It's got a lot of its own issues, like culturally. So in order to have that be kind of reinterpreted, in a way that was like it's incredible. You should watch it because the first Candyman
Yeah.
is incredibly racist. Is well known to be racist, just in the way that it portrays kind of the main villain, and kind of the general story and how it flows. So, in order for Jordan to take the movie and use that as a way to like make social commentary, of course, but not in a way that's like
Mhm.
preachy or like kumbaya or like, hey, look at yourself, you're
Got
the
it, got it.
problem. Nothing like that. It's actually like he took something that was like rotten meat and by somehow he took it and he unrotted the meat. That's like the art that happened, which is so cool.
Interesting,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Okay, so
I don't know how to
Candyman, Get
describe it.
Out.
Yeah, Candyman,
Yeah.
Get Out, super
Big
super
horror
fun.
fan?
I'm not a huge horror fan. There's some that I like, but yeah, I can't. I don't know horror. I don't know. I don't like being scared that much. I really don't.
That's fair, that's
Jump
fair.
scares and stuff. I don't know. It's got to be like really intriguing or mysterious. I'm trying to think other top movies that are not comedies. Man, we've already talked about Studio Ghibli. Give me 1 second.
We did, yeah.
What did I watch
Big
recently?
sci-fi fan? A big fantasy guy?
Yeah, I like sci-fi. I like fantasy. I'm trying to think of like a recent sci-fi film that I loved.
So yeah, lots of people brought up Dune. How'd you feel about Dune recently? Did you check it out?
You know, I did watch it, and I think
Oh.
Dune is really cool for all the reasons that it was not a good movie. Or yeah, I like it for
Interesting.
all the reasons that I didn't enjoy the movie. Did that make sense at all? There's a lot of reasons I didn't like the movie, and the reasons why I liked it are parts that I don't think matter to making a good movie. That's what I'm trying to say. I thought the
Interesting,
characters
okay,
were
alright.
boring. I thought the dialogue was boring. I thought the pacing sucked. And by the way, I watched the original Dune in preparation, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for this. Bro, the original Dune was better. It was so much better when you're just willing to like, dude, if you're willing to just camp the fuck out, right? You got to put this whole entire universe and this whole story. First and foremost, the main character is named Paul. The savior of the universe is named Paul. Okay, we're just going to
Paul.
let that one sit. That we have to follow Paul. But in the newest one, the visuals were fucking stunning, right? The effects, fucking stunning. The sound, incredible. Those are not the things that I need to enjoy a film. They're not. Those are all awesome, but if you removed those things, I could still enjoy a movie. Add those things on, you've got, you know, a blockbuster award-winning film. But to me, it was just really, really boring. I just, what happened? What, I don't know what happened.
You're not alone. You're not alone in that sentiment. I mean, I don't feel that way, but you're not alone at
Did you
all.
read
It was
the books?
pretty polarizing. I did not. I read the first 70 pages of the book, which was good. I just never got around to finishing it. But there are a good amount of people that I've talked to and that I've interacted with who feel exactly the same way. That it was like just not what they expected to be. Yeah, sure, it might be a visual marvel, but it's not really anything special in terms of story. People found it to be really slow. They didn't like that it was a part one. A lot of people didn't like that Zendaya was barely in it.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in that. Not alone in that at all.
And also, like, unfortunately, you know, there's just not much chemistry because there's not much time between the characters. I just don't know who I care about, if that makes sense. And it's hard to follow.
Got it.
And just to rant on it for one more second, the universe of Dune is so interesting and so cool. And I feel like the reason why I didn't like the movie is because I walked away and I didn't learn anything really super cool or interesting about the Dune universe. So when I talk about the first one, why it's so fun to me, obviously the visuals suck. Obviously the dialogue sucks. Obviously, like, it's a campy ass film, but like they really take you through all these pieces. There's like a giant ass like warped worm puppet creature. You know, the guy is like this ridiculous fat floating dude. Like there's what a great way to describe the film. But like you really have each character. You go to each location. You see their world. You see kind of their perspective. Like there's just more going on. And that's why it's more enjoyable if you can like push past the fact that it's a campy 80s film and like at some point they're riding on a worm and it's like so stupid. There's like a montage. It's a bad film. It is. But why I really didn't like the new one is because in preparation, the Dune universe is so mysterious to me. And so I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and I was like learning about it because I was like, this is so cool. What is the story really about? And the story of Dune, as far as I understand it, is really the story of human evolution over tens of thousands of years through the direction of what becomes essentially an immortal god king. So one person, through using the spice on the planet, gains the ability to see the golden path that humanity has to go on. We got to go through this 10,000, 15,000 year journey in order to prepare for the next stage of humanity. Because right now we are,
Mhm.
multi-system, we're multi-planetary, but what happens once we start to expand and we start to meet other aliens? We have to prepare ourselves against what could be psychic enemies or greater forces or, other. So it's like the story of forcing human culture to evolve to what becomes the most evolved pinnacle human being. And it's
Mhm.
from the perspective, or the person who leads this is the immortal god king. I think like King Leto the second. Doesn't matter. The dude becomes like a worm. It's ridiculous. It's like high fantasy space stuff. But that's so much more interesting to me than the story of like what's going on this planet right now. Like there's nothing in the
Got it.
movie that
Okay.
gives me the greater perspective of what really is the universe, what really is the path and the goal.
It's a
Because
really
it's Paul's son, I believe, that becomes the immortal god king. But Paul is one of the first versions of this next stage of human evolution. He is incredibly
mm,
psychic. He has all these other abilities, and he's also, secretly able to like be invisible to other psychic beings. He's got all these things that are basically traits that are being bred into humanity over thousands of years on this path that was foreseen. It's so much more
yeah.
interesting, in my opinion, than what was going on in the movie.
That's fair, and I think it's a really fair criticism because it is a really big world that we only got a little bit of in the movie. Maybe you'll be a big fan of Dune 4 or Dune 5 once
Honestly,
we learn more.
once we get there, because it's super interesting. I think it's interesting, but I do think the film
Okay,
like was a little slow. A little bit of like, you see what
that's
I'm
fair.
seeing? Yeah, you see what I'm seeing. It's the
I
desert, and it's like, okay, we got it. It's 12 seconds on the desert. How long is this movie?
Uh, yeah, you're not alone in this sentiment at all. So I don't think there'll be any angry tweets coming at us saying, "At Noah, you didn't like Dune, boo you." So don't worry. There's a lot of people who feel the same way. So before we get to the conclusion of this episode, we did get one question on Twitter that I thought was really interesting. We talked a lot about parody film, which has kind of died out now. We don't really get them anymore. We had like the Starving Games and all the Paranormal Activity parodies, and
Dude,
the Meet the
garbage.
Spartans was one of them.
Garbage.
They're all gone now. But if we were to make a parody film today, this person asked, if you make a parody film today, which movies would you parody?
Man, which movies would I parody? So this is something that I haven't put down a list, but whenever I see something, I'm like, oh, that would be fun to add. Realistically, I think the formula is you just look at the last decade and you pick
Hmm.
probably 8 of the strongest performing, widest ranging films. There's a couple that you have to do, and there's a couple that you don't have to do, and you could save for later. Like Marvel, doing some sort of
Yeah.
Marvel
Yeah.
spoof. There's a world where like, you pitch the whole movie as a Marvel spoof. And in my opinion, that's a much less powerful version of it than, okay, you add that to the list. You add Get Out to the list. What's everything
Mm.
that's like
Dune?
performed? Dune. Add Dune to the list. Like literally everything that has done well in the last 10 years, you add to the list. And then from there, you like, man, again, Scary Movie 3, it blows my mind because not only are they parodying the movies, they make a movie out of the storyline of all the other
Yeah.
movies. They've got Signs, they got Matrix, they've got The Ring, and they've got what else is happening at the exact same
Eight
time? Eight
Mile was
Mile.
a big one.
Those are the 4 main, completely different movies that are tying into like this main driving storyline. And then there's a bunch of other films that they're parodying, bunch of other famous people that they're parodying. They got a whole Michael Jackson being the Signs
Oh,
alien, which
yeah.
is
I
like
forgot about
so
that part.
funny. But that is kind of the art when I look at Scary Movie 3 is the fact that everyone can come up with really funny jokes. Everyone can come up with really funny parody jokes. Here's 8 jokes on 8 Mile. How are we going to take the story of 8 Mile? How are we going to weave it together with these other stories to make these jokes shine? And that's what's so cool.
I think that was what really impressed me about watching Scary Movie 3 was that they did have, 4 big properties, but it was a surprisingly cohesive story. Like it goes from 8 Mile, then to The Ring, and then a little bit The Matrix, and it kind of ends with Signs. Even though we had some signs in the beginning, but then it comes like full circle towards the end. It's pretty impressive how they can all like meld together to make a really cohesive story. It'd be harder to do nowadays. You would have to be like a superhero movie and they do all superheroes. I think they've done that before,
They probably haven't. I'm
but
sure it
it's changed.
sucked.
It's a much different world we live in now. So I guess we'll see if they ever bring back parody film. I'm
Dude,
curious to
it's
know if we'll go
hard
through that
because
trend
again, if
again.
you're going to keep it on one subject, why am I going to watch 90 minutes of you making fun of the Avengers when I can watch 91-minute TikToks making fun of the Avengers? You know, if you're not going to lean into your
Really good
strength
point.
as like a filmmaker studio, and you're not going to lean into the fact that
Wow.
only we have the production budget, only we have the writers and the actors in order to really make this, you're just fighting a losing battle because, you know, your TikTok costs $20 million and theirs costs 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
you're not really
Wow.
going to make it back.
Good point. Good point. What a way to end the episode with that point, because I like that point a lot. Well, we've unfortunately reached the end. Now I'm just like I think I want to go back and watch Scary Movie 1 or 2 just to really keep the parody film alive in me. But Noah, thank you so much for being on the episode. I had a great time talking to you about all this stuff. We'll make sure to link all of your information in the description of the episode, and be sure to check out Noah on social media platforms as well. Noah, I hope you have a great day. Thank you again for being here.
Of course, of
And
course.
everybody else, follow us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and we will see you guys next week.